Commander Reed stared through the observation window of his ship, his three eyes blinking in disbelief at the blue planet below. The scanners must be wrong. No intelligent life could survive in such conditions. Sir, readings confirm extreme environmental hazards, his science officer, Blue, reported. Her tentacles wavered nervously as she read the data. The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, nearly toxic levels. Surface gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. Temperature variations exceed 100 degrees in some regions. Reed shook his head, his scales shifting color from green to pale yellow, a sign of deep concern. And you're saying there are billions of creatures living here? Impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. The night side of the planet sparkled with artificial lights, and their sensors detected countless electromagnetic signals bouncing through the atmosphere. Somehow, life hadn't just survived here. It had thrived. The Galactic Council's first contact protocol was clear. Any species that achieved space flight capabilities needed to be evaluated for potential membership. But as Reed reviewed the preliminary data, he wondered if they should make an exception. Earth wasn't just dangerous, it was a death trap. Sir, Blue interrupted his thoughts. We're receiving a transmission from their space station. They're inviting us to dock. Reed straightened his environmental suit, checking the seals twice. The Council's best protective gear should be more than enough for a short visit. After all, how bad could it be? The answer came 3 hours later. The human space station's artificial gravity, set to Earth normal, made Reed feel like he was being crushed. Each step required tremendous effort, and his crew moved like they were walking through thick liquid. But that wasn't the worst part. Welcome to the International Space Station. The human greeting party smiled, showing their teeth. Sharp bone-white structures clearly evolved for tearing flesh. They stood tall, their rigid internal skeletons and dense muscles making them look like living tanks to Reed's eyes. We're honored to, Reed started to say, but then his environmental suit's alarm began screaming. The oxygen levels were rising inside his suit. Somewhere, there was a leak. The humans noticed immediately. Their reaction speed was terrifying. Pressure leak. Medical team to the dock. One of them shouted, moving with impossible speed in the crushing gravity. Reed's vision began to blur as the toxic oxygen filled his suit. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was a human running toward him, running in this gravity, with some kind of tool in hand. He woke up in their medical bay, his suit replaced with one of their own design. The human doctor, who introduced himself as Tom, explained what happened with remarkable patience. Your suits weren't built for our atmosphere, Tom said, checking some monitors. The oxygen concentration created micro-tears in the fabric. We've modified some of our spare EVA suits for your team. They should hold up better. Reed looked around the medical bay, noticing things he'd missed before. Images on the walls showed human bodies with bones broken, tissues torn, and organs exposed. Medical training materials. These creatures regularly survived injuries that would kill most species, and their medical science had evolved to repair damage that should have been fatal. You? Reed struggled to find the right words. You live like this all the time. Tom laughed. This is nothing. Wait until you visit the surface. We're having a nice spring day down there. Only a few thunderstorms, and temperatures a pleasant 22 degrees Celsius. Reed's scales shifted to white. Pure terror. The human had just described weather conditions that would qualify as a natural disaster on most civilized worlds, and he called it pleasant. As he composed his report for the Galactic Council later that day, Reed added an urgent recommendation. Earth needed a new classification. It wasn't just a dangerous world. It was something entirely new. A planet where the very air could kill, where the gravity crushed, where the weather brought daily catastrophes, and where the dominant species had evolved to consider all of this normal. The Council would need to create an entirely new category. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was DEE Death World. Dr. Marcus couldn't stop watching the video. On his screen, a human child was doing something that defied all logic. She was petting a massive furry predator with sharp teeth and claws. The creature, which humans called a dog, could easily tear her apart. Instead, it wagged its tail and licked her face while she laughed. Add this to the report, he told his computer. Humans not only survive alongside apex predators, they turn them into companions. This was his third month studying Earth's inhabitants, and each day brought new horrors. His research station, safely orbiting the deadly planet, had collected enough data to shock the entire Galactic Council. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Doctor, his assistant Joe appeared on the screen. Unlike most aliens, Joe had chosen to take a human name, claiming it helped him understand them better. You need to see this. The humans are having a cookout. Marcus hurried to the observation room. Through their high-powered cameras, he watched a group of humans gathered around a fire, actual fire, deliberately burning their food. But that wasn't what made his skin change color in shock. Are they putting capsaicin on their food? Joe nodded, his antenna drooping in disbelief. Not just regular capsaicin. They're using something they call ghost peppers. The concentration is high enough to be classified as a chemical weapon in most systems. Marcus watched as the humans bit into their food, their faces turning red. Some were sweating, and a few even had tears in their eyes. But they were smiling, laughing, comparing the burning sensations like it was some kind of game. Update the danger assessment, Marcus said weakly. Humans don't just resist toxins, they consume them for entertainment. His report for the Galactic Council grew longer each day. This morning, he'd added notes about human children deliberately spinning until they got dizzy, a practice they called fun. Yesterday, it was documentation of humans purposely jumping from high places with nothing but a thin piece of fabric to slow their fall. Parachuting, they called it. But perhaps the most terrifying discovery came later that afternoon. Doctor, Joe burst into the lab, his usual calm completely shattered. The humans, they're running. Just running. Marcus checked the monitors. Sure enough, a large group of humans was running along a path. There were no predators chasing them, no emergencies. They were running voluntarily. Our data suggests they do this regularly, Joe explained, still shaking. They call it jogging or exercise. They deliberately tire themselves out, stress their muscles, and drain their energy reserves for health. Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. In all his years as a xenobiologist, he'd never encountered anything like this. Humans weren't just surviving on their death world. They were actively seeking out ways to stress their bodies further. He began his final report to the Council. Earth must be classified as a Class 10 death world, effective immediately. The planet's inhabitants have evolved beyond mere survival. They have embraced the deadly conditions of their world to such an extent that they recreate them for entertainment. They expose themselves to temperature extremes in what they call saunas and ice baths. They climb mountains without safety equipment for fun. They deliberately consume irritants and toxins, calling them spices and hot sauce. They keep predators in their homes as pets. Most disturbing of all, they intentionally put their bodies through physical stress, a practice they call exercise, believing it makes them stronger. And they're right. The evidence is clear. Earth is not just a planet that hosts life. It is a forge that has created something unique in our galaxy, a species that doesn't just endure hardship, but actively seeks it out. A species that has turned deadly conditions into sources of entertainment and growth. Recommendation: any military action against Earth must be avoided at all costs. These humans don't just survive in conditions we find horrifying. They thrive on challenge. They are, without doubt, the deadliest species we have ever encountered. Marcus sent the report, then turned to watch the humans still running their voluntary marathon. He shuddered, grateful for the safety of his orbiting station. At least up here, nothing was trying to deliberately exhaust itself. The grand stadium of New Galaxy Arena fell silent as Captain Thompson stepped onto the field. The human athlete looked small compared to the towering alien competitors, but there was something about his easy smile that made the crowd nervous. "Are you certain you wish to continue?" asked the tournament director, his 6 eyes blinking with concern. "The gravity here is set to universal standard, much lighter than your Earth. We wouldn't want you to float away." Thompson just smiled. "Don't worry about me. When do we start?" The first event was the endurance race. Most species could maintain their top speed for about 10 minutes before needing rest. The course was designed to take exactly that long, but no one had told Thompson this was supposed to be a sprint. "The human is jogging?" one announcer said in disbelief. "Perhaps their species can't run faster," the other suggested hopefully. Then, after 20 minutes, when the other competitors had either finished or given up, Thompson finally started running. Really running. The crowd watched in horror as he sped up, lap after lap, getting faster instead of slower. "This is impossible," the director muttered. "Their muscles should be failing." "Oh, we're just getting warmed up," Thompson said as he passed the finish line, barely even breathing hard. "On Earth, we have something called a marathon. It's about 40 kilometers longer than this." The throwing event was even worse. The aliens had carefully calculated the weight of the sphere, heavy enough to be a challenge, light enough not to cause injury. They hadn't counted on human rotational physics. Thompson spun in a circle before releasing the sphere, using something he called a discus throw technique. The sphere flew so far it broke the measuring equipment. But the G-force is on your arm," one of the judges protested. "You should have torn your muscles." "Nah," Thompson laughed. "Back home, we have athletes who can throw things twice this weight. This is just a warm-up." The climbing event was supposed to be the hardest. A straight vertical wall, 50 meters high. Most species took it slow, careful not to fall. Thompson looked at the wall and asked a question that made several aliens faint. "Are we allowed to jump down when we reach the top?" Before anyone could answer, he started climbing at a speed that seemed impossible. His fingers found holds that weren't even visible to most of the audience. When he reached the top, he did something that caused mass panic in the stands. He jumped. The safety fields activated immediately, but Thompson was already rolling as he landed, popping up to his feet with a grin. "Sorry about that," he said to the medical team that rushed over. "Force of habit. We call that parkour back home. It's kind of a hobby." The final event was supposed to be combat sports, but after seeing Thompson's demonstration, the other competitors suddenly remembered urgent appointments elsewhere. "I don't understand," the director said later, reviewing the day's footage. "Your species treats these physical extremes as normal." Thompson nodded. "Well, yeah. Kids do most of this stuff for fun. We build special parks just so they can climb things and jump around. Some of us do this kind of thing on mountains, just for the view at the top." The director's color shifted to pale green. "Mountains? You mean those giant stone spears that stick out of your planet's crust? You climb those for fun?" "Sure. Some of us even run up them. There's this great trail near my home." But the director had fainted, joining at least half of his medical staff, who were still recovering from watching the humans' demonstration. That evening, as Thompson packed his bag to return to Earth, he found a note had been added to his file. "Warning. Human athletic abilities exceed safety parameters of standard testing. New category required. Recommend immediate review of all physical sporting events. Note: under no circumstances should humans be allowed to demonstrate their concept of extreme sports." Thompson laughed as he read it. Wait until they found out about hockey. The Ravager fleet commander looked down at Earth with hungry eyes. His species had conquered 12 systems before this, and Earth looked like easy prey. Sure, the Galactic Council had marked it as dangerous, but how bad could one little planet be? "Begin the invasion," he ordered. "Standard protocol. Take their major cities first." The first wave of dropships entered Earth's atmosphere over a region humans called Australia. The commander chose it because scans showed the lowest population density, perfect for establishing a foothold. He couldn't have been more wrong. "Sir," his second-in-command called out, "we're losing contact with Dropship 7. "What? How?" "They report something called a cassowary attacked them. It's some kind of feathered demon with claws. The whole team is retreating." Before the commander could respond, more reports flooded in. "Dropship 3 is down. Something called a box jellyfish got into their landing gear." Dropship 9 reports their base is overrun by spiders. "Sir," Dropship 12 says they're being chased by something called a kangaroo. It's some kind of giant jumping creature that's breaking through their armor. The commander switched tactics. They would try a different continent. "Move the second wave to this Africa region," he ordered. That was an even bigger mistake. Within hours, reports came in of giant gray creatures with teeth like spears in their faces. Elephants, spotted speed demons that could tear through battle armor, cheetahs, and massive gray fish that could snap their water vessels in half. "Hippopotamuses, retreat to the polar regions," the commander ordered. "Nothing can survive in that cold." But even there, they found massive white predators, polar bears that actually chased their ships across the ice, and strange black and white birds, penguins that somehow thrived in the freezing temperatures. The commander watched in horror as his invasion force was slowly picked apart, not by human weapons, but by Earth itself. His soldiers reported strange invisible attackers that made them sick. Bacteria, tiny flying creatures that sucked their blood, mosquitoes, and even the plants were dangerous, with something called poison ivy causing entire squadrons to retreat in itchy agony. "Sir," his science officer reported, "you need to see this. The humans, they live with these creatures. They've built their cities right next to them. Some of them even keep the predators as pets." The commander watched footage of humans casually walking past creatures that had sent his best troops running in terror. He saw human children feeding those black and white flying creatures, pigeons, that had gummed up their ship engines. He watched humans swim in waters filled with creatures that had torn through their best underwater gear. "How?" he demanded. "How do they survive?" "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "I don't think we're the predators here. We never were. The humans, they're the apex predators of a death world. Everything on their planet is a weapon, and they've learned to use it all." The final straw came when they tried to attack a human military base. They thought they were prepared this time. They were wrong. The humans had trained the local predators, dogs that could smell their camouflage, birds that warned of their approach, even tiny insects that tracked their movements. "Full retreat," the commander ordered. "Send warning to the fleet. Earth is not to be invaded. The planet itself fights against you, and its people. Its people are more dangerous than anything we've ever encountered." As his ships fled Earth's orbit, he added one final note to his report. "The humans are not trapped on a death world with their planet's horrors. The horrors are trapped there with them. And the humans are winning." Dr. Wilson walked into the alien medical conference room, carrying the simple first aid kit. The gathered alien doctors stared at him with various numbers of eyes, all filled with curiosity. They had come from across the galaxy to learn about human medical practices, though many still thought Earth's methods were barbaric. "Today," Wilson said, holding up a needle and thread, "I'll show you how we close wounds when our medical machines aren't available." Several alien doctors fainted at the sight of the needle. The rest watched in horror as Wilson demonstrated suturing on a practice dummy. You push metal through the flesh," one doctor asked, their tentacles curling in distress. "And the humans survive this." Wilson laughed. "Survive? We've been doing this for thousands of years. It's basic first aid. Most humans can learn it in a day." The next demonstration was even more shocking. Wilson showed them X-rays of broken bones that had healed. "Wait," another doctor interrupted, their scales changing color rapidly. You're saying the bone fixes itself? Of course, Wilson nodded. Takes a few weeks usually. We just need to keep it stable while it heals. He showed them a cast. We wrap it up, and the body does the rest. One alien doctor, Dr. Green, who had chosen an Earth name to better understand humans, raised an appendage. But what about the pain? Surely you keep patients unconscious until healing is complete. No, most humans just take some mild pain medication and go about their daily lives, Wilson explained. Some even sign their casts and turn them into art. The room erupted in shocked whispers. The idea of remaining conscious while bones knitted themselves back together seemed impossible to them. But the real shock came when Wilson started explaining human organ transplants. You take organs from one human and put them in another. Dr. Green asked, swaying slightly. And both humans can survive? Usually, yes, Wilson said. We can even transplant hearts. The surgery takes a few hours. Hours? Someone squeaked. You open the chest cavity for hours and the human lives. Wilson pulled up more slides. We can also remove up to 70% of a human liver, and it will grow back. We can take out one kidney, the spleen, the appendix, or even parts of the brain, and humans can still function. Several more alien doctors fainted. But the most interesting part, Wilson continued, enjoying their reactions a bit too much, is our understanding of human recovery speed. We've learned that small amounts of damage, like exercise or minor injuries, actually make humans stronger. Dr. Green, who had been taking notes, dropped their datapad. Damage makes them stronger. Exactly, Wilson said. When we lift weights, our muscles develop micro-tears that heal stronger than before. When a bone breaks and heals properly, the repair point is often stronger than the original bone. He pulled up one final slide, showing a timeline of human medical advancement. We learned all this because our planet forced us to. With Earth's gravity, weather, and wildlife, injuries were common. We had to learn to heal quickly and get back to surviving. The alien doctors looked at each other in amazement. What they had thought was primitive medicine was actually the result of dealing with one of the galaxy's deadliest environments. One last thing, Wilson said with a smile. We have children present their own medical technology at science fairs. Last week, a 12-year-old designed a new type of bandage that changes color when it detects infection. That did it. The remaining conscious doctors finally fainted. As Wilson packed up his first aid kit, he chuckled to himself. He hadn't even told them about humans who survived being struck by lightning, or people who lived after being frozen solid, or the child who survived a wooden plank through his brain. Some things, he decided, the galaxy wasn't ready to know yet. Welcome back to Surviving Earth, the ultimate challenge. Jack Anderson smiled at the camera, trying not to laugh as behind him, an alien contestant struggled to open a door handle with their tentacles. We're now in week 3 of our galaxy-wide sensation, where brave alien visitors attempt to live like ordinary humans. The show had become the most watched program in galactic history. Viewers couldn't look away from the fascinating horror of watching aliens try to handle everyday Earth activities. Today's challenge, Jack announced, is something humans call grocery shopping. The 3 remaining contestants looked nervous. After last week's morning jog challenge, where 2 participants had quit after learning humans did this voluntarily, they were rightfully scared. First up was Blorb, a blob-like being from a low-gravity world. They had to navigate the store's automatic doors, which kept closing because their gelatinous form wasn't properly triggering the sensors. Remember, Jack said cheerfully, you must gather all items on your shopping list while dealing with Earth's full gravity. The second contestant, a crystalline being named Spark, was doing better until they reached the produce section. The sight of humans casually handling what they called fresh vegetables, pieces of plants that were still alive, caused them to emit distress signals. These humans, Spark said to the camera, their crystal structure vibrating with anxiety, they just eat parts of their planet. and they keep these living things in cold storage until they're ready to consume them. But it was the third contestant, Max, who had chosen an Earth name for the show, who faced the biggest challenge at the spice aisle. "What do you mean humans put this on their food on purpose?" Max screamed, holding a bottle of hot sauce with their environmental suit's safety grip. "The warning label says it's made from something called ghost peppers." The show cut to commercial break while the medical team calmed Max down. Next came the afternoon challenge. Take a walk in the park. "You want us to expose ourselves to direct solar radiation." Blorp quivered, while moving through an area filled with unpredictable Earth wildlife. "Don't worry," Jack assured them. "It's just a public park. Perfectly safe. Human children play here every day." That information didn't seem to help. The contestants watched in horror as small human children climbed metal structures, playground equipment, deliberately spun themselves until dizzy, merry-go-rounds, and launched themselves through the air. Swings. "This is what human younglings do for entertainment?" Spark asked, their crystalline form clouding with disbelief. "They intentionally defy gravity and risk falling." The day's final challenge was what humans called a backyard barbecue. "You're telling me," Max said slowly, "that humans gather around contained plasma reactions to deliberately burn their food while standing in direct sunlight. And they call this a fun afternoon." Jack nodded cheerfully. "Don't forget the volleyball game afterward." All three contestants immediately quit the show. In the final episode interview, Blorp spoke for all of them. "We came here thinking we could handle whatever Earth threw at us. We were wrong. These humans, they don't just survive these conditions. They enjoy them. They create games and activities that make their already deadly planet even more challenging." The show's ratings broke all galactic records. The next season had a waiting list of brave or foolish alien contestants eager to try their luck. But the producers had to add a warning label. "Warning. Activities shown are performed by trained human professionals who have evolved on a death world. Do not attempt any Earth activities without proper safety equipment and medical supervision. Side effects may include gravity-induced stress, solar radiation exposure, and the shocking realization that what humans consider fun qualifies as extreme survival training on most other worlds." Jack was already planning next season's challenges. Wait until the aliens discovered what humans called water parks. The emergency alert echoed through the Galactic Council chamber. A mining colony on Beta 9 was collapsing, its atmospheric shields failing. The local rescue teams couldn't handle the crisis. The planet's conditions were too extreme. Then a new voice came over the communication system. "This is Captain Sam from Earth's disaster response team. We're 10 minutes out. Hold tight." The council members looked at each other in surprise. Humans, on a rescue mission. But Beta 9's atmosphere was toxic, its gravity crushing, its temperature nearly unbearable. One council member suddenly smiled. "They're from Earth," she reminded the others. "This is exactly what they're made for." The rescue operation was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The human team moved through conditions that would kill most species, their Earth-evolved bodies handling the extreme pressure with ease. They carried equipment that seemed primitive but worked perfectly in the harsh environment, technology born from centuries of surviving their deadly homeworld. "How are they moving so fast in this gravity?" one council observer asked, watching the humans run through the collapsing tunnels. "They're used to worse," another answered. "Remember, Earth's gravity is higher than this." The humans didn't just rescue the miners, they taught them survival techniques on the spot. How to breathe efficiently in thin atmosphere, how to move in high gravity, how to stay calm when everything went wrong. Back in the council chamber, the debate began. "We've been looking at this all wrong," the head counselor said, watching recordings of the rescue. "We thought Earth was a curse, a deadly planet that somehow produced intelligent life. But it's not a curse at all. It's a gift." She brought up more images, human disaster teams teaching other species how to survive extreme conditions. Human doctors sharing their advanced trauma treatment techniques. Human engineers designing safety equipment that could withstand almost anything. Earth didn't just make humans strong, she continued. It made them teachers. They know how to survive things that would kill most species, and they're eager to share that knowledge. The Council watched as a new training facility opened on Earth. Alien species from across the galaxy came to learn from the masters of survival. Humans taught them Earth's techniques, how to handle varying gravity, how to deal with temperature extremes, how to treat injuries, how to adapt and survive. On my world, one alien student said in an interview, "We flee from storms. Here, humans taught us how to predict them, prepare for them, and even help others during them. They call it emergency response training, but it's really the art of not just surviving, but thriving in chaos." The human instructors had started simple. First, they helped other species adjust to Earth's gravity in special training rooms. Then they taught basic survival skills, how to find safe shelter, how to purify water, how to handle injuries with limited supplies, skills humans had learned over thousands of years on their deadly world. But the most important lesson wasn't physical at all. The greatest gift humans gave us, another student explained, was their mindset. They taught us that being scared is okay, but giving up isn't an option. They showed us that helping others survive is just as important as surviving yourself. As the council meeting ended, they passed a new resolution. Earth would become the galaxy's primary training ground for survival and emergency response. The planet that had once been seen as too deadly to visit would now be a beacon of hope. "It's perfect, really," the head counselor said, watching a human instructor patiently teach a group of aliens how to climb. The deadliest planet in the galaxy turned out to be exactly what we needed. A place where the impossible becomes possible, and where the skills to survive anywhere are taught by those who mastered surviving everywhere. Earth was no longer just the deadliest planet in the galaxy. It had become the galaxy's greatest teacher.